Big cloud providers are late to some essential technology evolutions and are playing catch up now. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Cloud Computing Insider. This channel explores the ins and outs of cloud computing without an agenda or following into the narrative set by big tech marketing. We look at what works, what does not, and the actual value of this technology in a balanced, information-forward way. If that interests you, please subscribe, like, and comment. I'm your host, David Linthicum, author, speaker, B-list geek. Let's get started. So from the article linked in the description, Amazon has formed a new group within AWS dedicated to creating AI agent systems that help people automate parts of their lives. Reuters reported on Tuesday in an email to staff seen by Reuters. AWS CEO Matt Garman said agentic AI has the potential to be the next multi-million-dollar business for AWS. A long-time AWS executive who previously led the company's AI and data teams will reportedly lead the new agentic AI group. So they're bringing somebody back to lead this group. Acknowledging that recent developments show major cloud providers such as AWS are forming groups to focus on agentic AI, in other words, where they should have been moving a year ago, this announcement indicates awareness of the trend, but also reflects a reactive rather than a proactive stance on leveraging new technology. So this one is, kind of personal to me because I've, worked as a CTO 3 times for different cloud providers. And obviously as a CTO of a technology company, we're always trying to keep up with where technology is going. And we would always be in a position many times where we may have missed some sort of trend or boat. And the marketing people decided that in order for us to be relevant in that trend, to do a press release, to announce our initiative to go off and gather technology and build technology in this particular marketplace, in this case, AWS and agentic AI. It's not a good way to do it because ultimately, if you've seen the trend emerge, it's kind of too late for you to jump on board. Now, AWS may be a different breed of cat because obviously they're a big cloud provider. Lots of people depend on them. And I think that if they come up with an agentic AI solution, a number of enterprises are going to adopt it. So that's a bit different than, say, a startup or even a $1 billion or less company that are out there. And that's how many of the technology companies are out there. But this kind of goes to a larger issue. The fact of the matter is that I think the cloud providers out there are reacting instead of being proactive around the emerging technology that's out there, in this case, generative AI. We also saw weaknesses in their AI capabilities, which I think and I put this in previous videos, which probably led to some downturn in their sales growth for a particular quarter. Now, eventually, these guys are very smart. These guys are very big. These guys are very well funded. They'll figure it out. But it's weird to see companies that should be leading or innovating in this space that are not doing so. And in order to keep up, they're just making innovation by press release, which I think makes them look weak. Anyway, you tell me in the comments below if I get that right. So I'm not going to get deep into what agentic AI is. I did the video last time. I'll go ahead and post it here, and you can check that out, where I talk about some of the basics of agentic AIs customized for cloud providers. Also, if you're looking to go deeper, I do have an agentic AI architecture course out on LinkedIn Learning, and AI agents in the cloud also out on LinkedIn Learning, and check those out. And those were done a year ago, by the way, just to kind of get an idea as to where the maturation of this technology is. So agentic AI, just to give you an overview, is the ability to create AI capabilities that are going to be part of autonomous agents that can run anywhere. They can run on my phone, they can run on my watch, they can run on my thermostat, they can run on the laptop that's in front of me here. They can do any number of things, and they're able to operate autonomously unto themselves as an independent agent, but also coordinate with other agents to become a multi-agent system. And obviously, there's huge amounts of innovation opportunity there. And the fact of the matter is you'll be able to take collections of agents that have their own personas and their own purposes and assign them to carry out some sort of a business operation, supply chain, for example, inventory management, even autonomous cars. So a number of capabilities are going to be built around this technology. And by the way, listen to the old geek. That idea has been around for a long period of time. We've always had the notion of AI agents and using AI at the edge, things like that. What's happening now is we're formalizing that into particular product instances where the innovation is occurring around that space. And we're finally at a place where we have cheap enough technology to solve these issues. And so that's why people are moving to agentic today. In other words, the popularity of AI and the ability to move to AI systems, but the ability to customize the use of AI around agent-based deployments, which provide us a lot more power, a lot more flexibility, and a lot more ability to solve business problems, and doing so without having to spend many millions of dollars in training these systems. These are small language models. They do tactical things, not strategic things. They're not LLMs, and therefore they solve discrete business issues, which I think that AI should be more used for with the enterprises out there. Anyway, you tell me below. So what's interesting about this is the timing of the AWS announcement. In other words, I think they're seeing the market inflect around agentic AI. They kind of took a wait and see attitude to see how it was going, and then suddenly threw their hat in the ring. And not that they don't have agentic AI capabilities in some of their technology today, they definitely do, but they haven't looked at it as a strategic opportunity for the public cloud provider. So now with this AI group, they're basically stating, okay, we're late, but we're working on it. And, hopefully we'll be able to get some stuff out that's going to be in time for the market to pay attention to them. So this is nothing more than what I call a Me Too move, masking the fact that they're late to the agentic AI game, and ultimately they're trying to be considered, and even in some cases, freezing the market. So people who are looking at agentic AI strategies for their particular enterprise, they may see now that AWS has a team in that place, that their team in the agentic AI space, that they're going to wait to see what AWS is going to come up with before they make their strategic agentic AI technology decisions. And so it has a tendency, if you're all in on the AWS stuff, to freeze the market. And I think that's what they're doing here, as well as addressing the whole Me Too aspect of this. So what's the competitive landscape for agentic? Emerging players, ultimately are startups and established companies that are focused solely on AI and have provided solutions demonstrating agentic AI's capability. So examples of innovators are up on your screen now. I'm not going to go through the list, but even some of the larger cloud providers like Microsoft, certainly OpenAI, and aspects of Google are up there as well. So have agentic capabilities. I would not say that they have heavy-duty agentic capabilities like some of the startups I'm seeing, but they're refocusing their existing AI offerings to deal with agentic. So look at what the companies are, look into what they do, and you'll see what agentic AI technology looks like. And it could be any number of types of technology in the life cycle. In other words, designing agentic AI system, developing systems, operating systems, managing systems, hosting systems, things like that. And everybody's, I think, defining agentic AI a bit differently. Some people are defining it as, something that's going to be tantamount to a software as a service system. And I think Salesforce is, certainly making that play. And I think that's all well and good. But you get into the architectural differences with what agentic AI is versus a traditional monolithic system. They're vast. And I think that we as industry thinkers, thought leaders, influencers, people listen to in the industry, so to speak, and I'm one of hundreds and hundreds out there, should really begin to define this stuff a bit better and teach folks exactly what it is and what the value is, or else the marketing message will get hijacked by the billions of dollars of marketing out there. And agentic AI that we actually see and experience will look very different than we know what it is, and very different than the technology that can provide value to businesses. So there's a few risks here for AWS and others that are moving into the agentic space. Number one, they only have a certain amount of resources they can apply to innovating with technology, and they have to reallocate those resources toward agentic, and doing so without disrupting the core offering. And I think that some of the stuff that we've seen in the last couple of years around moving to generative AI has been an example of that. So in other words, they spent all their time and resources in innovating generative AI type systems and tools that support it, and reallocated resources away from really kind of their bread and butter, their storage, their databases, and their CPUs as a service. And that causes a risk unto itself, because I think enterprises, and I think I've heard enterprises actually feel this way, feel that they're being neglected. And AWS and some of the other cloud providers are focusing their resources on AI, specifically generative AI, are not paying attention to what they leverage within those cloud providers. And many of these enterprises out there, pay these cloud providers as much as $500 million, sometimes getting close to $1 billion per year to leverage these services that are strategic to their business. And if they view them as not paying attention to those core services that really make cloud usage worth it, and the ability to do so in ways that are not going to produce outages and are going to continue to produce good performance, they'll stay with them. But if they view them as distracted and moving to the new cool stuff, even though that market hasn't shown up yet, I think many of the enterprises are going to dump some of the cloud providers, repatriate, and move to different solutions. And again, it's not going to be to an enterprise data center. It's going to be to co-location providers, managed service providers, second-tier cloud providers, folks like DigitalOcean, managed service providers like Rackspace, things like that, or even building their own hardware solutions and a co-location provider, which is in essence, data center real estate for rent. So, and I think enterprises are looking at the alternatives to some of the big three cloud providers now. And I think that's kind of core to why we're seeing weaknesses in their market. In other words, the cloud industry has exploded around the use of AI and continues to explode. But AWS, Microsoft, and Google don't seem to be getting the share of that as much as they thought. And again, smart people, eventually they'll figure it out and they'll be able to pivot and to get a better market share, but I think they're going to be damaged in the short period of time. At least that's my opinion. Let me know what your opinion is below. So some of the other issues that I think AWS and some of the other cloud providers face are going to be the integration issues with their existing technologies. So they're going to go off and create a siloed set of technologies to address the agentic AI need. You still have to integrate that with all of the technologies that are branded within the cloud providers. So it has to work with S3 and EC2 on the AWS side and all the other branded AWS products out there, and have deep integration into those products. You give the devil his due, not that AWS is the devil, but they've done a pretty good job, and Microsoft and Google have all done a pretty good job in integrating the products together to make the experience of leveraging a cloud provider a little bit easier to take, a little bit easier to do than if you're leveraging a dispersed set of heterogeneous products that may have some integration capabilities, but they're companies that are not owned by the same brand, and so they're typically not going to be working together. So it's going to take you longer to integrate those systems and get around the incompatibilities, things like that are known to work together. Cloud providers seem to be very good at doing that. And so if they're unable to provide those sorts of integrations for their agentic AI offering, even for their generative AI offerings that they're building very fast right now, I think that's going to be a problem for some enterprises. So one of the risks that AWS has is that if they are perceived as being late to the agentic AI party, and by the way, this is just an instance of technology. Fast forward 2 years, it'll be something else. Fast forward 2 years again, it'll be something else. And they're throwing their hat in the ring after other of the cloud providers have significant offerings and a market position that they may be viewed as a company that's kind of lost its way. In other words, if there used to be the innovative company and the innovation occurred within this particular cloud provider, and now they view that as not being the case. And so enterprises are now becoming a little bit more skeptical, and I think healthily, in a healthy way. And I think we should have been skeptical around cloud resources when it first started, back in 2008, 2009, when I got in the middle of it. And certainly that was an evolution over time, in the different cloud companies I worked before that. But that was when the explosion occurred. And instead of taking an all-in attitude toward cloud computing, cloud only, for example, the ability to look at the value of cloud platforms and their ability to be aligned to certain workloads in certain data sets and not others. And so that's why a lot of the repatriation is going on right now, is because enterprises made a fat mad dash to the cloud, with the cloud only mantra, and I think ended up making mistakes. And then 10 years later realized that there's a significant amount of cost in running these workloads on the cloud versus some of the alternatives that are out there. And that's why they're returning to legacy environments, called legacy environments, but basically traditional system environments that are non-cloud. And we're probably going to see more of that happen. So it'll be interesting to see where AWS is viewed in a year or two. In other words, are the enterprises considering this, basically a bump in the road for AWS, or considering this as them being innovation oriented, which I guess you can spin it that way, or are looking at the fact that this may not be a good path forward for their enterprises, and not just this particular cloud provider, but cloud providers in general. And I think a lot of those questions are being put forth to enterprises right now, and I think that's not necessarily good news for the cloud providers unless they're able to pivot and take better ownership of the market and sell more innovative products and services in the market. And we'll see. I'll give them all the credit in that they're big companies, lots of resources, very smart guys. I have lots of friends that work at all the different cloud providers out there. But I think they have a lot of work to do as to where they are now, as to where they need to be. So the proof is in the pudding. Are they going to have long-term viability into the market? Are they going to address the agentic AI opportunity with actual tools that get to the nature of what agentic AI is and the value of this technology? Or are they going to play on the outskirts and talk about agentic AI integration, and basically are going to, have glorified, chatbots that run out there that someone's calling an agent. So we'll see the way this, comes about. So I encourage you guys to take a deep dive into what these cloud providers are doing, but also look at the other innovation that's occurring out there in the marketplace that are not necessarily the cloud providers. And these are smaller startups, and these are research organizations and open source organizations that are truly innovating in the space and have some very cool technology that I think they're going to bring to market. Now, they're not multi-billion-dollar companies or something approaching $1 trillion in valuation, but they are interesting in the fact that I think we're going to see an inflection in this particular architecture, agentic AI, just like generative AI, and we're going to see a lot of these smaller startups that are going to inflect. Now, typically that means normalization is going to occur. They're going to get acquired by the bigger, cloud providers and the bigger technology companies out there, but that's just kind of a natural progression. We just want to see what they have, the innovation in the space. Everybody shares ideas typically these days. So if they're innovative, I think we're all going to benefit from it. So I think the common message here is scrutiny, the ability to kind of take a look at all this technology with a skeptical eye, and also, consider how a particular cloud provider exists in context of their marketplace. So if they're entering a technology trend late, that's concerning. Number one, they're entering it late. They didn't see it coming and didn't get into it when they should have. And the other thing is, how is that going to disrupt their existing business? And are they going to move resources in different directions? And are they going to get that technology correct? And lots of questions come up when I see things like this. I would never put myself in that position when I was a CTO. If I missed the opportunity, I just worked on the next one and worked on creating the next one. In other words, innovating where the innovation doesn't exist, and coming up with that new ideas and then building around those net new ideas. And some of them don't work, and many of them do. Ideas like EAI and some of the other stuff I was involved with in the past. But in doing that, you end up owning the innovation, and people view you as the innovation leader in that space. And it's never a good idea, I don't care how big of a technology company are you, to, take a Me Too stance to this. It just makes you look silly, in my opinion. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out my other videos on this channel. Also check out my InfoWorld Cloud Computing blog, my 100+ LinkedIn Learning courses, of course, my generative AI architecture course out on Go Cloud Careers, my other YouTube show in AI Insights Innovation on the Keep Research YouTube channel, and finally, my latest book, An Insider's Guide to Cloud Computing. So until next time, you guys stay very safe. Later.